Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Hearthwalkers bonus episode. What? We're doing a little bonus episode today for all of those folks that are traveling for the holidays. I wish you guys luck. I don't have to travel that much for Christmas this year, and I work overnight, and it's the 23rd now. So tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and it's gonna be a thing. All right, so stay safe, and we got a bonus episode about Pokemon for you guys. Let's do it.
We have not started the show yet, right?
Oh, it's always starting.
Hello and welcome.
It's time to
bingo! Yes! Pull up a chair by the hearth.
Hearthwalkers, a Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone podcast.
Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Hearthwalkers, the Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering podcast, with a bonus episode for you today about the Pokemon trading card game. I'm sorry if that intro scared anybody. I was screaming, and we're recording. We used to record when we were in the car. We're in the car right now. We used to record in the car with the Apple earbuds, because I had heard that the microphone was decent on them, but I think just recording straight into my phone is a lot better. So hopefully, if there's any bad stuff happening, we can fix it in post. But I'm hoping this sounds way better than all of the last couple of podcasts. That being said, I love Pokemon. Everyone who doesn't love Pokemon? I love Digimon too, but Pokemon is bae for sure. One of my first loves in terms of gaming / content / lore in a world. Pokemon has been around forever, right? I think 1992 they were released in Japan. 1993 came out to the US. I was born in 93, so that's kind of like a small connection. One of my earliest memories of Christmas is my dad getting me a Budweiser box, a 36-pack of Budweiser, inside filled with newspapers. I dump everything out, and then I find a purple Game Boy Color with Pokemon Yellow, Dr. Mario, Tetris, and I think Harvest Moon. And that was my jam. I don't know if I want to make this adult content or not, but family friendly, why not? I mean, yeah, this is the Pokemon episode. We're talking about Pokemon. We'll bleep that out. But if you guys haven't heard about Pokemon, just turn this podcast off. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do for you. We're not going to do a deep dive on Pokemon itself. We're talking about the Pokemon trading card game today. And we are talking about it for Christmas because it is surprisingly, if you take into consideration the major trading card games, I'm talking Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Pokemon, I guess we can throw in Cardfight Vanguard in there. Take all of these into consideration. I believe Pokemon gives players and buyers the most bang for their buck when it comes to buying, purchasing, and being able to play this game. Now, a lot of this is also going to involve Pokemon, the trading card game online, which is free to download, free to play. You don't have to spend any money on it, and Pokemon cards you buy in real life are almost 1-to-1 value in the online client, which is amazing. I don't understand. If you guys don't, well, I guess we can do a little history from what I remember. I did some research. A lot of this stuff I just know because I love Pokemon, but 1993, Pokemon Red and Blue came out. Pretty sure. At me if I'm wrong. Don't worry about it. A little bit later, Yellow version comes out, and it's great. I loved Yellow version. That's the one I got. I never played Red and Blue. Not true, actually. When Pokemon's 20th anniversary came out, I got the special 20th anniversary 3DS, new 3DS, which came with a preloaded Red and Blue version. So I have been playing that a little bit. But Yellow was how I started. I remember my dad was like, oh, you like that Pokemon stuff, and he bought us, like, Pokemon packs of, like, Jungle or whatever that first edition pack was, and I pulled a holo foil Machamp, and I was like, this card is amazing. And then at some point it got creased, and I lost it. I do not have a good history with Pokemon cards. Just throwing it out there right now. Pokemon, the trading, after it got, super popular, the anime came to the US, blew up. Everybody was loving Pokemon. There's a huge wave of just cultural interest around Pokemon, especially this first generation. If you guys want to learn more, you can check out the podcast Wizard and the Bruiser, not sponsored, and they do pop culture deep dives. I think I mentioned them before a couple of times, but they do have a Pokemon episode, which is amazing. They cover all the major points, but we're talking about the card game today. That's what I want to kind of focus on, the Pokemon trading card game. We're going to talk about how to play. We're talking about some other stuff. So, that being said, Wizards of the Coast, aka the creators of Magic the Gathering, were put in charge of, I don't think creation, I don't think they developed any cards, but at least Northern American distribution for the Pokemon trading card game. They were, if it had anything to do with us, they were involved for a long time, until Hasbro bought out Wizards of the Coast a couple of years back. They weren't able to get the licenses for the Pokemon trading card game, so I think it just reverted back to Game Freak. Or there's another company that's doing it now. I'm not 100% on that one, who is like spearheaded all of the Pokemon trading card game stuff now, but it is popping, you guys. Like, it is. The one thing is that Pokemon does have a really bad power creep problem. So if you guys don't know what power creep means, it's just when you, after a card game has been around for a long time, you start running out of ideas, obviously, so you start printing cards that are just straight up better versions of older cards. So if I had the classic example, I guess, is like a 2-mana 2/2 in Magic, a bear, and then they print out a 2-mana 2/2 with an ability. That is like kind of the definition of mana creep. So that is just a strictly better version of that previous card. Now, the problem with Pokemon is that the more the new games come out, the new animes come out, the cards kind of have to match the power and the aesthetic of these new characters and variety and new mechanics. And along with that, Pokemon cards just started getting stronger and stronger. If you take a look at the most expensive trading card in the world, which is, I'm pretty sure, still a thing, a first edition holofoil Charizard from the first set, which is, I think, called first edition. It has like a 1 on it, and I know the second one is the 2 with the Pokeball, but I think it might just be Jungle first edition Charizard. Holo is like one of the most expensive cards you can ever. It's one of the most expensive pieces of cardboard you could buy. And it has like 90 HP, and it can do a flamethrower attack for like 60. And if you pull like literally any bullshiz Charizard that's out now, he has like 220 HP, and his attacks do like 120 each. It's ridiculous. That's what the power creep I'm talking about is. So a lot of the older cards just kind of aren't played. There are fringe cases where, just like in Magic, they printed an older card that just had some crazy wackadoo ability, and for some reason it just perfectly counteracts what's going on in the meta right now, and then it'll like come back and it'll be like more expensive and stuff like that. I can't think of any specific card off the top of my head, but it does happen sometimes. There's even moments where like common and uncommon cards get really popular because they just have a really good mechanic against whatever the meta is going on right now. That'll happen a lot too. We'll talk about that in a second. I have a couple of examples, but first of all, I'm sure you guys, I'm talking about all this stuff, you guys don't really even know how to play, right? Pokemans. Okay, so Pokemon, I find that it was really hard to learn how to play Pokemon, and I couldn't tell you why it was hard, because the game is actually very simple. And now that Pokemon Go has come out, and everyone has played Pokemon Go, I think it's a little easier to explain how Pokemon the trading card game works. Now, Pokemon trading card game, think of all of your Pokemon as having a fast move and like a power charged move, whatever they call it in Pokemon Go. Most Pokemon cards on them have printed 2 attacks. They'll have one that costs a certain amount of symbols and another one that costs a certain symbols. Usually the first one costs a little bit less, does less things, and then the stronger attack that costs more things does more things, obviously. So the way you look at a Pokemon card, so if you, this is a podcast, it's hard to explain, but you look, go grab a Pokemon card. I always carry an Arcanine. I think I always have a Blaine's Arcanine in my wallet, right? But when you look at a Pokemon card, top left-hand corner, name of the card, name of the Pokemon, right? There can be multiple versions of the same Pokemon. It's not like you can only have the one Growlithe. I can have up to 4 Growliths because I can only have 4 of like a single Pokemon, but they could be all different versions of Growlithe, if that makes any sense, because they get reprinted a lot. There's only so many Pokemon. There is on the top right-hand corner is the HP, the health points. So your basic Pokemon are going to be lower than your more evolved Pokemon, or if your Pokemon is an EX or a GX, we'll talk about that in a bit. That goes along with I guess we can talk about it now. It goes along with the name. So when you look at the top, let's back to the top left, you have the name of the Pokemon. If it'll say the name of the Pokemon, and then it'll say basic or stage 1 or stage 2. Now basic means you can play it out without it being evolved. It is a Pokemon that does not need to be evolved. This gets a little confusing because they came out with cards called EX and GX, and some of the more popular cards, or if you guys go to the store and you see a booster tin or like those big like play boxes, it'll have most likely a Pokemon that is an EX. It'll have the name like Sliveon EX, and next to the name on the left-hand side, it'll say Basic. That just means you don't need the Eevee, and you don't need to evolve it into Sliveon. You can just play the Sliveon by itself. It makes GX Pokemon really powerful, because GX Pokemon are usually evolved forms that you don't need to evolve into. Now, if you don't have the GX type, then you will have evolved Pokemon that'll, in the corner, it'll say stage 1 or stage 2, and it'll show a little picture of the previous stage's Pokemon. So if I had a Pidgey and it's at basic and I wanted to evolve it into a Pidgeotto, then when I play my Pidgeotto card, it'll say stage 1, and it'll have a little picture of Pidgey in the corner. And then afterwards, I got my Pidgeot, I drew my Pidgeot, and it has stage 2 in the corner, and it has a picture of Pidgeotto. Makes sense so far, alright? Now, the right-hand corner, you got your HP. It's number, health points. The bigger the number, the healthier your Pokemon, right? Then, in the big old middle, you got the artwork. The GX, usually the GX Pokemon, or some of the more fancy Pokemon, have full borderless artwork. It's amazing. The artwork, I cannot tell you guys enough, the artwork for Pokemon cards is, in my opinion, some of the best artwork in card games, period. I say this with a couple of caveats. 1, the full art cards are perfect. They're so good. You cannot beat, even with the new Magic the Gathering borderless cards, they're like kind of just extending the frame, but the cards weren't meant to be borderless. They're just taking the borders off and extending the artwork a little bit more. Pokemon cards like these, the full art ones, are designed to be full art. They have like Japanese kanji running across sometimes because it's more aesthetic. They designed the card specifically to be looking as awesome as it can in a little, like, what is that, 8x5 rectangle, something like that. And they have like blown up versions, so you can have like basically a mini poster if you want. Or, I mean, I think the cards are also legal somewhat if you don't have the smaller version. It's crazy, you guys. Pokemon cards are crazy. The artwork also I like because they work with a lot of different artists. If you get literally any pack, even now, even the newer packs, not just the older ones, but even the newer ones, you'll start opening up your packs and you'll see that new stylized, like, really good Photoshop artist artwork that they use for like the full art stuff or like really popular characters, or you'll see like cutout art where like it literally looks like it's a photograph and someone created the Pokemon out of like pieces of scrap paper and they just worked. Or you'll see like a sculpture of the Pokemon or a 3D version of the Pokemon or just a really stylized 2D version. The artwork is insane. They get artists from all over the place and it just works. Like, it just makes you feel like the company cares a little bit more about their artists. and they just let them do whatever they want. It's also nice for the kids. They can experience multiple different art forms. A lot of the time, people that I knew were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And we would almost make fun of the kids that played Pokemon, because that's just what you did when you were in middle school and high school. You were just a dick, right? But even us, we had like favorite Pokemon. We all loved Pokemon. Like, we didn't hate Pokemon. We just thought Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a better card game. But we still had like, oh, I love Arcanine. That is a really sick Arcanine artwork. I'm just gonna keep this. Like, I don't play Pokemon, but I love this card. Stuff like that. Like little trinkets. I feel like that's how a lot of people start collecting Pokemon cards. And it's totally different to like any other card game, because there's that familiarity and nostalgia already set in. Or like, if you picked up the new game, like, oh, I love, what's a new Pokemon? Shuppet. That's not even that new. I love Shuppet. No, I love, the evolution to Farfetch'd. He's like a knight. He's like a grass knight. It's sick. And I just want that Pokemon card, like, on my wall somewhere. Like, you can do that. That's an easy, I feel like that's how a lot of people start collecting Pokemon cards. But anyway, the artwork is sick. Under the artwork, you have usually like basic stats for the Pokemon. Like, it'll literally say the Pokedex rated, like height, weight, and some other stuff. They did that a lot with the older Pokemon cards. Some of the newer ones, I think they just took it away. I think like, it's just not even a thing anymore, because on the older ones, it wasn't as complicated, so they had kind of space to fill. So they would have those Pokedex entries in the bottom. Instead of flavor text, it would just be a Pokedex entry for that Pokemon, which is, I think, is hilarious. And then you have your abilities. Now, your abilities from left to right read like this. The first set of imagery is the energy cost. Think of this as mana cost, because it doesn't cost anything to put one of your Pokemon from your hand onto the field. We'll explain more about that in a bit, but it doesn't cost anything. What does cost things is using the abilities on your Pokemon. So if your Pokemon has this little purple eye thing, that's a psychic energy. So you need psychic energy on that Pokemon to activate that ability. Depending on how much it changes, it can go up, it can go to a really high number. Like, there's like, even in the older game, in the older Pokemon cards, there's some moves that would take like 4 energy or 3 energy. So think of energy as your mana, as your land, but it goes like kind of equipped to a Pokemon. And then that Pokemon is able to use it. Once you use the energy doesn't go away. It's just depleted for the turn, and the turn passes. When your Pokemon is knocked out, any energy that is attached to it also goes to the graveyard, which is where the crux of the game happens, right? So after the energy cost for your moves, the name of your move happens. It's literally, each move has a name, just like in Pokemon. Every move has a name, and then it'll have whatever that does. A lot of the time, for especially a lot of the basic Pokemon, it's just like Scratch, Tackle, and there's no added ability to it. But sometimes you'll get like Flamethrower, Flip a Coin. If it comes up tails, the opponent is burned, and if heads, don't do anything, right? It'll get more and more complicated. This is where the fun of the Pokemon game happens. This is where cards become very powerful or cards become duds, is in the effects of their abilities. And after that, you have the damage. There's always, whatever number there is always like the damage, or if it's a plus, it's always the damage. It'll be a number. It'll be in multiples of 10 almost all the time. I don't think they split it into 5s, but they might have a multiplication sign or an addition sign on top of it. Depending on the effect of that ability, it can augment the damage. So if you have a Dodrio and you use Tri-Attack or double kick, right, then the ability will say like flip a coin until you get tails. For every heads, you deal that much damage times this move's power, and the power will be like 20. So you just flip a coin. And sometimes it's dangerous, because if the first coin you flip is tails, it does 0 damage, because 0 times 20 is 0. And then some moves have addition, like for every extra energy attached to this Pokemon, it does an additional 30 damage on top of like the 10 plus that is already there. So it's just a signifier of how the damage works for that move specifically. Now those are the moves. On the bottom, you have a couple of information things. Pokemon is a rock, paper, scissors game, in the video game, of course, and in the card game, it's similar. Each card has a little slot for weaknesses and resistances. Weaknesses are always, now at least, always done in multiples, and resistances are done in minuses. So if I'm weak to something, if I'm a Charizard, and on my card it says weakness to water, and it has the little water symbol, it'll give me a multiplication sign. So usually it'll say like times 2. So whenever they attack me with a water type move, I have to multiply it by 2, and that's how much damage I take because of my weakness. There are some that are just additive, so it'll just do like plus 20 damage whenever I get hit by that water move. And then there's resistances, which are moves that I'm strong against. So like I said, I'm that Charizard, I'm strong against grass type moves, so if I get hit by a grass type move, I'm minus 30 from, because I'm a Charizard and I don't take shit from nobody, right? So that's how the damages, what did I just call it? I can't remember. The resistances and the negative stuff happen, and then that goes from left to right. On the right hand corner, you will have the item number, the artist name, or the card number, the artist name, and the rarity. Rarity goes circle, diamond, star, promo, and there's like a black star promo on top of that. So black star promos are cards that you get in tins or in the special like boxes. Those ones will always have the little black star promo on it. The normal promo, I think, is reserved for like tournaments or special occasions, things of that nature. And then the star is your rare, diamond is basically your uncommon, and circle is your common cards. These also work into how strong a Pokemon is. So a lot of basic Pokemon that have evolutions will end up in the circle rarity, and then the like second tier evolution will be in the diamond rarity, and if they have a third tier evolution, that'll be in the star rarity. So it kind of just works out like that. It's a nice system. When you open up your packs, you can have multiples of the diamonds. Sometimes you can get multiple stars if you're lucky. It works fine. So that's a Pokemon card. There's a lot of different stuff that can be on a Pokemon card. Like I said, EX Pokemon. So EX Pokemon are special. They have a special rule. And whenever a card has a special rule on it, it says it on the card. It's great. You don't have to remember what Death Touch means. You don't have to remember how Menace works or how Protection works. It's on the card. Just read the card. So we'll get more into that a little bit later. There's other stuff like Poketool or what's another one? Like Power Move. Like sometimes Pokemon will have a passive ability, and that's called like a Power Move or something. So it doesn't have a cost. It's just active when the Pokemon is active on the field. Power Tool involves items. We'll talk about that right now. Let's talk about items right now. So items are Pokemon cards that you can use on your Pokemon, or they do stuff. They do stuff, right? You get Pokeball, you got your potions, you got your elixir, you got escape rope, you got switch, all kinds of stuff, right? Think of these as your, I want to say, instants and artifacts. If we were to put this in Magic terms, if we were to put this in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, these would be like your trap cards, kind of. There's not really like a legit trap card, but think of it kind of like a trap card and spell cards. Trap cards and the spell cards, sure, why not? There are different subsets of item cards. There's stadiums, which you can play. They're basically a field spell in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I guess kind of like an enchantment in Magic, where whatever effect the stadium card has affects both players, and there can only be one stadium card active at a time, so your opponent can destroy yours by activating their own stadium card. There are Poketools, which get equipped to a Pokemon. I brought that up a little bit earlier. There are like one-time item use cards, stuff like that. That pretty much covers it. Now what we're missing are these things called support cards. Support cards are very important. It bases it more on the anime than the game, but that's why I love the Pokemon trading card game. It takes assets from the anime, it takes assets from the video game, and it just melds them together and be like, hey, you love Pokemon, here's a trading card game, and it works. So supporter cards are usually a person, or sometimes like it might be an action or a Pokemon. It'll be cards like Professor Oak or Bill, or I don't know if there's an Ash one, but there's like a Nurse Joy, there's Officer Jenny, like literally any character from Pokemon, they might have a supporter card. There's a lot from like the new series and the new games. I just don't know any of those characters well enough. There's like Lucina, I think that's a person. Z, I know that's a person. They'll have supporter cards. And support cards are special because you can only activate one per turn. Think of these as your spell cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or spell card, like just a spell, like a sorcery spell in Magic, right? In Hearthstone, it doesn't even work, alright? These Pokemon in Hearthstone do not mesh well together. But we will find similarities. But supporter cards are very powerful. You can only activate them once per turn, and they can do pretty much anything a Poké Tool or like an item can do. Anything an item can do, a support card can probably do, but because you can only play support cards once per turn, they're usually a lot more powerful. There's like I know one of them is like Professor Kukui from Sun and Moon, and that card's ability is that you get to draw 2 cards, and one of your Pokemon, your active Pokemon, gets to do like 20 extra damage, or it gains 20 health for the rest of the turn. So it's way better than activating just an item card that says draw card. There's some that will shuffle both players, like I think Bill shuffles both players' hands into their decks, and then you draw 7 cards, which is really interesting because if I use all of my cards and my last card is Bill, then I shuffle nothing back into my deck and I still draw 7 cards. There's a lot of card draw once you get deep into Pokemon. Shuffling and cycling through the deck is very important so you can find your combo pieces, and it's really easy in Pokemon. So if you like to draw cards, play Pokemon. Trust me. Just trust me on this one. Play Pokemon, take it seriously. You draw through your entire deck multiple times sometimes, alright? There's cards like, I forget what it's called, but it'll say your opponent discards their hand and then draws 4 cards. There's cards that say both players draw 2 cards and then you get a support card from your graveyard back to your hand. Or there's tutors. Tutors are super easy. All of the Pokeballs, all the different variations of Pokeballs are tutors, so they will go into your deck and help you find a Pokemon. There are certain supporter cards that'll do that too. You usually use this to get your EX or your strong Pokemon out, right? So those are the different kinds of cards. We're actually running out of time. This is insane to me that I'm taking this long on it, but let's go over gameplay real quick. So the gameplay for Pokemon trading card game works very similarly to how the video game works. You have one active Pokemon, and then you have a bench of Pokemon. Your bench can have up to 6 Pokemon on it, and once your active Pokemon is knocked out, you have to replace it with one of the Pokemon on your bench. If your bench has no Pokemon, you lose, flat out. There are other ways to win, though, and other ways to lose. Whenever you knock out your opponent's Pokemon, you get a prize card. Now, there are 6 prize cards total. At the beginning of the game, you decide who's going to play first, who's going to play second, and then you shuffle each other's decks. You do all of that stuff. Before you draw your hand, you take the top 6 cards of your deck and put it aside, and those are your prize cards. 6 of them. So literally, like, if you rely on one single card and you only have one copy of it, it could end up in the prize card pool, not in your deck. It's crazy. So whenever you knock out an opponent's Pokemon, you take a prize card. And when you have taken all 6 of your prize cards, you win. Similarly, like, you don't want your Pokemon to get knocked out because then your opponent will win if they take all their prize cards. There are certain exceptions to this. If your opponent has an EX or a GX card, it says on the card on the bottom, this is an EX or a GX card. When this card is knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prize cards. That has come into play a lot because EX cards and GX cards are very powerful, so you want to play them, but if they get knocked out, then your opponent gets to take double the prize cards. They just released this, like, the last new set, tag team cards, which is like one creature card that technically has like 2 Pokemon on it. So I think the last one I checked out was Sliveon and Guarvadier, or like Eevee and Snorlax. It'll just be one card called Eevee and Snorlax. But on the bottom, it says This is a tag team card. When this card gets knocked out, your opponent takes 3 prize cards. That's half of the prize cards. It's insane. But they're very powerful, alright? So, and they have a lot of health. This is where that power creep comes into play. So, once you take all your prize cards, you win. If you run out of Pokemon to play, you lose. You can always like cycle through cards. Like if you opened up a slot on your bench for another Pokemon, then yeah, throw another one. There's no limit. You can only have 6 on the field at a time, but there's no limit to how many Pokemon throughout the game you can put on your bench or into play. If your opponent, or if a Pokemon is knocked out and it is not the active Pokemon, the opponent still gets a prize card for them. And there are certain strategies that will deal damage to the bench instead of to the active Pokemon, or in addition to damage, like in Hearthstone, and not like in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Damage is permanent as long as that card is on the field. If I damage it for 10 or 50, it will still be damaged by 10 or 50 on the next turn and on the turn after that. The only way to fix it is to heal the Pokemon or to bounce it, just get it off the field. Status abilities, status effects will go away once the Pokemon goes back to the bench, I believe. Those will be burn and poison. There's no paralysis in this game. There is paralysis and there is a sleep, and those go away also once your Pokemon goes to the bench. When you buy, if you buy a deck or the Pokemon does a lot of dual decks, or if you buy the tins, they'll usually come with little coins and tokens, and one of them is red and has a band-aid on it, that's the burn token, and one of them has a skull, that's the poison token. If a Pokemon is asleep, you turn it upside down, and if a Pokemon is paralyzed, you tap. It's very simple once someone is there to explain it, right? And that's literally it. Oh, a turn structure. Let's go through turn structure. So once you guys put your prize cards, and you draw your hand, you do get to mulligan. But you only mulligan if you cannot play an active Pokemon this turn. So you look at your hand, and you can only play cards that are basic Pokemon. So first in the evolution chain Pokemon or GX or special cards, it has to say basic on the card, and then that will be your active Pokemon. So you pick your active Pokemon first, and if you have any other Pokemon you would like to play, you can put them into your bench. Once all of that happens, you can start the game. If you open up your hand and you have no basic Pokemon, then you get a free mulligan. There's no penalty, you just mulligan into the next hand. And that is a strategy where a deck will have only one type of basic Pokemon and just mulligan until they get it. It's kind of cheesy, and I don't recommend it. It's not that good, but it's an option, right? So once you guys start your turn. First turn, second turn, doesn't matter. You guys play Pokemon. The likelihood of you being able to knock out the other Pokemon on the first turn is very low. You have to, just like in Magic, play your land, play your energy once per turn. So you can't play multiple energy per turn unless a card specifies you can. Just how Magic has Arboreal Grazer and multiple cards that say you can play an additional land this turn. You would need to have a Pokemon that has an ability hey, you can play an additional land this turn, or I can, if you activate my ability, I will search the deck for an energy and attach it to whatever. Those have to be specifically told. Without that, you can only play one energy per turn, but you can play it on your active Pokemon or your bench Pokemon. This is a strategy of sorts. If you have a really strong Pokemon in your start and you don't want it to die, you can put it on your bench, put a chump blocker as your active Pokemon, and every turn just put energy on your strong one so that when that first active Pokemon dies, you switch it in and you can start battling it out. Now, I did forget something. On the bottom of the cards, there's also a retreat cost. That is the cost you would have to pay in energy to move your active Pokemon back to the bench. Now, sometimes it's 0. It literally depends on how big the Pokemon is, which is weird. Snorlax's retreat cost is 3. Because he's one, or Whale Lords is 3. And then a normal Pokemon usually will have no retreat cost or just 1 as a retreat cost. That is an energy you have to discard from your Pokemon to the graveyard, and then you can switch Pokemon. There's also support cards and item cards that will switch your active with a bench Pokemon, and there's even support cards and item cards that will switch your opponent's active with a bench Pokemon. So shenanigans happen, alright? But yeah, one strategy there is to load up a stronger Pokemon on your bench with energy, and then as soon as you can switch, or once that Pokemon dies, you put in your strong Pokemon and you start beating down the opponent. It's very similar to how the video game works. And then once you start your turn, you can play one energy, you can play one support card, and you can play as many items as you want. That's how it works. There's no real phase until you decide to attack. Once you decide to attack, whatever happens, and then the turn is over. So if I attack, my card has an ability, we do the ability, we deal the damage. After that, my turn is over, and the opponent turns goes. There's no second main phase. There's nothing to do after your Pokemon attacks. It is the very last thing that you get to do. But there's no real structure to when you put your energy card down, when you put your support cards down, if you do any item stuff. All of that is literally just however you want to order that. That is how it will be done. Not a problem, right? And then your opponent goes. Same thing. All the stuff. You guys battle it out. You get your prize card. When you win a prize card, you literally draw a prize card from that pile into your hand. You can pick, it doesn't matter. They have to be face down, so you can't peek unless you have a card that says you can peek, which is a thing. And then you pick a card, and that card gets to go to your... So it is like drawing a card. Sometimes it's just energy. It's fine. Don't worry. Now, the last thing I want to go over real quick are the energy types. I realized that I forgot about that. It's very similar to Pokemon with slight differences. There is fire, water, and they all have the color association, so it's more familiar to notice, but there is a symbolic, and you're just gonna have to learn it if you want to play the game. It's not that difficult. Fire, water, grass. There is not rock. It's called fighting. So a lot of rock types or ground types will be this fighting type, and it's like a fist, and it's brown. There's no flying. There is psychic, which is like an eyeball. There's dark. There's fairy, there's dragon, there is colorless, which is like your normal types. And colorless is also a catch-all, kind of like in Magic, has colorless mana. Similar to how Pokemon works, your retreat cost will always be in colorless mana, meaning that you can use any energy type that you want to use to get rid of it. And I think that's it. I think that's all of the energy types. Those are base energy types. There are special energy cards, just how there are dual lands in Magic or lands that do special things. You can get, there's like rainbow energy that counts as one of any energy type. There's like double dragon, or there's like special fire ones that give your Pokemon an ability while it's equipped and stuff like that. Each type has certain archetypes within it. So like fire Pokemon tend to discard energy from themselves a lot, so it would be nice to run a couple of item cards like energy retrieval or energy search, so that you can refill your Pokemon with energy after they use their effect. And it sounds dumb, but why would I discard energy cards? But the fire type moves are just more powerful, and therefore that's like an additional cost. The grass type moves are really good at searching for energy. The psychic type moves are good at like doing status abilities, because they can do sleep, they can do poison, stuff like that. You guys just have to check it out. You can do dual, you can do literally any color. You can have all of the colors in your deck if you want. It is not that big a deal. Like, there's no land restriction. If you want to do stuff, you need to have the energy capabilities to do that, right? But I think we're going to wrap it up here. Like, that's the basics of Pokemon. I bled my heart out earlier on why I thought Pokemon was super cool. And I still think it's super. And, the Pokemon Online thing. So there is an online client called Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. And it runs pretty smoothly comparatively to a lot of other online clients, Magic Online, and it is definitely aimed more towards kids, but they do have like a ranked mode. They have a ladder. They give you a lot of prize support in the ladder, because it is, like, again, aimed for kids somewhat. You like pick an avatar, but the important thing that I wanted to get to was when you buy a pack of Pokemon cards, you get a code. You get a code card, and you can put that code into the Pokemon online game, and you get a pack. It's 1-for-1. The packs in the game are the same as the packs in real life, not like a Magic Arena, and it's 1-for-1. You get each pack you buy, you get a free pack in Magic Online. So it's a lot, or in Pokemon Online, it's a lot easier to grow your collections like that. If you buy a tin or a special box, you will get a special code so that you can get the cards, those special cards that you got in the game too, online. And then each of the packs that you have in there also have code cards in them. So like the most common, the reason I thought this was great for Christmas was because a lot of places will have these things on sale. You can find tins, like the Pokemon tins at Walmart for like $5. You can find the big boxes with like the oversized cards. Sometimes there'll be a pin or a statue for like $20, right? And if you buy one of those, then you get the special promo cards, whatever promo cards come with it. Sometimes it'll give extra packs with that special code, and you'll get like sleeves, you'll get a bunch of cool stuff in the game. And then you also get, in real life, like 5 or 6 packs on top of that, and each of those packs has a code card in it, so you get 5 or 6 packs online. It's it's so much better than all of the other games that we play. In terms of building your collection and like having fun game. And the online version works too. You can even play it somewhat mobile. You can play it on an iPad or play it on tablets, but not on phones. Which is the last thing I'm going to say, because I'm home, so I gotta go. Thank you guys so much for listening. Check out Pokemon. If you guys liked the way we do this bonus episode, I want to do more of them. Hopefully they're not all Garbo and Matt. The main podcast I want to be more current event news and kind of evergreen topics that can apply to a broad spectrum of card games, or if like something specific, I have to talk about that. But I would like the bonus episodes to be this sort of quote-unquote deep dive into specific games. We'll do fun ones like Chaotix or the Bionicle card, Shaman card. Those are the I want. That being said, thank you guys for listening. Check out the main podcast, Hearthwalkers. You guys are on. Hit me up at Twitter at Wholfie or at Hearthwalkers, hearthwalkers@gmail.com. We're streaming on Twitch almost consistently now, twitch.tv/Wholfie, so come say hello. Thank you guys so much for listening. Special thanks to Blue Kitty. Special thanks to Chaotic for Kawaii Overload, the song that we used in our intro. Goodbye.